On the 12th day of Christmas, my siren gave to me 12 corals spawning, 11 lobsters molting, 10 seahorse birthing, 9 urchins moving, 8 queen conch raising, 7 sharks are hunting, 6 grouper laying, 5 parrotfish, 4 stingrays, 3 sponges, 2 sea turtles, and a siren on top of the tree. What's splashin', and welcome to our 2023 Siren Sundays holiday special with me, your host, Lashanti the Siren, and today's guest is Kache Knowles, the founder of Eyes of Bahamian Bay. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I am so excited to get you on the show, especially since I am such an avid supporter of Tingsmas. But before we dive into that, I wanted you to introduce yourself and tell some of the viewers, who you are, what did you study, like how did you get to creating, Eyes of Bahamian Bay?
Okay, so my name is Kache Knowles. I am the founder of Eyes of Bahamian Bay, which is a brand that aims to give a platform or provide a platform for Bahamian identity and culture to flourish. I studied biology, biological science.
Fun fact.
Fun fact, I was supposed to be a veterinarian and then an environmentalist, which was very short-lived. I think I did that for like 5 months, and I was just like, I'm going to go travel. It's such a weird turn of events. So I was at the island school briefly, and then I went on to do my master's in marketing in Spain afterwards. And that was with the intention of saving the conch. I wanted to have an aquaculture conch farm. That was the intention of like literally doing my master's, because I wanted to marry the biology with the business. So after I finished my master's, came back and was just like, okay, how do I do that? And decided to go traveling in Southeast Asia instead.
I remember that because that's actually how I first literally stumbled upon you, because I saw that you were traveling Southeast Asia, or maybe you had already done it and you were just now doing the post. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to do this one day.
Yeah, so very random, but yeah, you should definitely go. So when I was there, I remember I was at this cultural dance, I would call it, in Bali. Very intimate, very simple. They have them every single day. And I remember distinctly messaging my mom and being like, why in the Bahamas don't we have these like intimate pockets of culture everywhere all the time, like consistently? We have Jonkanu, but that's really just New Year, Christmas, and then little pockets in between the year, right? Nothing ever came from that conversation. She was like, I don't know, like we're different, whatever the case is. And when I got back from traveling, I was traveling for 3 months. When I got back, I intended to start an art page. I'm an artist too.
Look at that, multitasking.
So I really wanted to start an art page that sort of just showcased, like, I guess, things that I painted. So the name that I came up with, or the conversation that I had in my head of people being surprised that I can paint, or surprised that I'm artistic, was, oh, I didn't know you was paint. And my response was, Ice Paint Bay, like very casual. And so that was like literally the start of the I is and the Bay, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when I started to, I started to like note take and develop, what does I is Paint Bay mean? And I just started writing down all these I is sentences that we use in everyday conversation. And the last sentence I wrote was, I is a Bahamian Bay. And so again, it was supposed to be an art page, but like over the course of, I think, like 3 days, I just was writing and formulating different like concepts. And I realized that, okay, well, all these things can fall under I is a Bahamian Bay, because I'm the Bahamian and I'm also an artist. I'm also environmentalist. I want to save the conch, all these different concepts that I'm interested in. The Eyes of Bahamian Bay is the umbrella of those concepts. And one of the things that I wrote after I wrote the Eyes of Bay was that my language doesn't dictate my intellect. So this resonated with me because as a child, I still have one hard accent, but it's a little bit more refined. But as a child, my accent was good. It was strong. It was a force. I remember going to places like when I went to school in Canada, they used to be like, what? Like constantly. I would repeat myself like 5 times. And I realized like, oh, they really can't understand me. So after about 4 days of like just writing out things, I decided that it's going to be Eyes of Bahamian Bay. And I'm going to post words of Bahamian words on Instagram in pretty graphics as a hobby, just for fun, because I needed something that was my own. And people gravitated, resonated, followed, shared to manage shirts. And I just been running with it ever since. My little prolonged passion project.
Nice. So how many years has it been now?
I started in 2019. So I think next year would make 5 years or 4.
Next year would make 5, 2024.
That's crazy.
Quick maths. Nice.
Yeah, so 5 years as of May next year. But I definitely think that as of this year, I would say this is my first year actually taking it seriously as like a business, and in terms of like developing it and like actually like being like, okay, how can I sustain myself long term?
Mm-hmm.
The first 4 years is like, this is fun. I get to, do this, but like not actually being like, okay, everything is sort of coming together. So yeah.
And so you do this full time?
Yeah. Everyone thinks it's like my side job. It's just like, no, guys, when you buy a shirt from me, I pay my bills.
Oh, nice. And, and I think that is always the assumption because, as Bahamians, and I realized this actually speaking to an American colleague, everyone has a side hustle. Like you hardly find a Bahamian who literally has one job, and that's them. And whether that be because they need extra income or they just got other passions and things that they want to pursue that they've turned into businesses. So I think you are a rare find where you actually have just this one thing that you focus all your energy and attention into.
Yeah, it's sometimes stressful because I'm like, man, things be tough sometimes, but I do just hold out. And then also just seeing the growth from the time that I'm able to give it. Like I've tried to have other things. It doesn't work. Eyes of Bahamian Bay usually suffers when I try to do other side jobs with it, and I just can't balance the two. Anyone who can, y'all are amazing. Y'all are my heroes because I can't. It's incredible. So yeah, this is what I do full time, which I know that it's a huge blessing to be able to do something full time of this nature and grow and like this.
It's amazing, especially, and the biggest thing I want to talk about, of course, is Tingsmas. I mean, this was your 3rd year, correct? And it was bigger and better. And it's so impressive now that you've even just shared, like you've been doing this by yourself. The only thing you've been focusing on, and I think Tingsmas is an example of you reaping the rewards of that. So what was the idea behind Tingsmas?
Okay, so well, what it came from was, so I'm from Eleuthera, as a Eleuthera gal. And so when I started in 2019, I ended up doing shirts, but I realized that most people who followed me and like the community of Eyes of Bahamian Bay was in Nassau. So this is obviously pre-pandemic. I was like, okay, how do I operate this business like when I'm over here, but people who want the things in Nassau? So I literally bought, like, I think I had like maybe 100 was my first like amount of shirts that I bought. And I literally packed them in suitcases, came to Nassau for a weekend, found a place to pop up, sold the stuff, and I went back home. Was just like, okay, that was cool. I made some money. but it was such an influx of people. Like it was just, I don't know, I guess I like really just filled like a niche that was needed, or demand that was needed. So I did that a couple times. Like I probably did that like maybe 2 years. Like I just would order stuff, come to NASA, pop up, go back home and be like, okay, people still want stuff. This is cool. And so eventually after the pandemic, and then so during the pandemic, I realized, okay, I can pop up. So what am I going to do? That's when I created my website, and I started selling from my website and literally mailing via the mailboat to Nassau and to different places. So like very down home, like, hey, this way to get, things to people, and they want, their items. So after that, I was like, okay, this is growing. I need to move. As much as I love Eleuthero, but it's time to like move. So I moved in 2021, and again, just popped up. I probably popped up like maybe, I would say once a month or every other month. And it would just be such an influx of people. Like I would be by myself, but I would see so many people. And like, again, the page has a lot of followers. So I have a big community that is in Bahamian Bay. So I sort of wanted to share that space. I was just like, man, this is awesome that I get to reap the benefit of how popular this brand is. But what would it be like if I could share the space? Like, okay, yeah, you everyone's coming to me, but like go over there and then go over there, like buy from other people. So that's when at the end of 2021, I was like, I'm going to do a pop-up market and ask people to join me. I did not know what I was doing. Oh my gosh. Like so clueless. Puppy from Tipsy Bar. She actually joined me as like a partnership. She did the bar. I did the brought in people, but like she did like the planning aspect of it. So that was the first one. That was at Ty's place. Very small, very intimate. I don't even know how many people actually remember that being the first one.
Wow.
But yeah, that's what started it. And then, but it was such a fun event, like just so much fun to be around other small businesses and being like, this is why we're doing this for small businesses, shop local. We don't have a shop space. This is our only opportunity to sell. And then 2022 came and I hit a wall. And I literally did not operate. Literally for the whole year, I was sort of like in a rut, like in terms of creativity, in terms of feeling stuck, not giving myself, I guess, credit for what I'd been doing. So I remember I went on Instagram and I cried. I was just like, y'all, I gotta go. I
do remember that. I do remember that.
Yeah. So there was some like background stuff that was going on that career-wise that I just like felt a little bit trapped in, I guess, Bahamian Bay rule. And then so I just like literally didn't work. My dad used to call me and be like, so what are you doing today? And I'm like, I'm crying, Daddy. I'm healing. He's just like, okay. When are you gonna get it? When are you gonna get it going?
Yeah.
And in October of 2022, I figured out why I was in this rut and released it. And then literally between October to November, I jumped up and was just like, I'm going to do the pop-up market again. Like very last minute, not a lot of planning time. And it went off seamlessly, perfectly, which was shocking. But that's when I moved to Colin's house. That year I had 56, there were 56 vendors, including myself. There's a band, a DJ, a rain. Remember it rained?
It did. I do remember. But people were still out there. Like
there in the rain. I'm like,
lining up.
That was a crazy like that lives in my head. It's just like, wow, like what is this thing that you created that makes people willing to stand in the rain? Like y'all crazy.
But I things.
Oh, crazy. I was just like, these people need to go home. Like, I don't know if I would be in a raid for me. But again, I'm on the inside,
Yeah.
looking in. So I always tell people I don't get to see or feel the impact the way that you would,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm on the inside creating and doing these things. But I'm like, is it impact? I'm like my biggest critic. So it's like the impact is really felt from people who are on the outside, seeing the content, seeing what I'm doing, and being like, okay, this is like valuable and important. Whereas I'm on the inside being like, is this valuable and important? Is this making an impact? I don't know, man. So, um, really, the Tanksmiths came from just wanting to share the space and share the light. And then this year, it got a name. So the first and second year, I called it a Bahamian Tang pop-up market.
Oh, interesting. I
Yeah.
don't even remember that. I always felt like it had been Tingsmas. Like,
No. And I remember like thinking to myself, okay, Kache, you have to have a name. It has to be catchy. It has to be short. A Bahamian thing, everybody's called something a Bahamian thing. So it's
I
like
could
not,
be,
I
yeah.
can't own it, you know?
Yeah.
And I think like maybe in August, I was just like writing, like trying to figure out names. And it's like Tingsmas, which is like the evolution, because the first two did have tings,
Mm-hmm.
ting in it. But I just added the S and the mus from Christmas. And then people love the name Tanksmas because
Love
hey,
it.
yeah. I feel like I said so much just now.
No, I love it. I love hearing about your journey and you know, I think it's so important for people to see you're a real person. You're a full-on Bahamian and you have this experience. And I know one of the things I did want to talk about that I think is so important these days is the importance of shopping local.
Mhm.
And I wanted to just maybe hear a bit of your perspective on why you think it is important that people shop local, like instead of going out and ordering things or buying things from these brand name stores. Why is it important to shop local and buy direct from Bahamians?
Right. I think that ownership is just so important for Bahamians. I've always been an advocate of having your own business and like being in control of like the money that you make. My parents are both business owners. My grandmother has always been a businesswoman, and she's definitely someone that like is a guiding light to me, because I've heard her stories of how she had to struggle to sew clothing for people to make ends meet, you know. So that's always been something that's just like, wow, she worked so hard. I remember as a kid, I used to sell vegetables at a vegetable stand so I always had entrepreneurship in me. And I've always, I think, been an advocate of, again, being in control of like your time and being able, if you put in 100%, not necessarily that you're going to get 100%, but you can control,
Hmm.
you know, what is your journey and what you reap. Obviously, entrepreneurship is difficult, it's challenging, it's lonely, it's sad, but it's also very rewarding to be able to see the direct, you know, fruits of your labor. And then also too, I think just supporting creatives, because it's really like creatives that sometimes, most of the time, turn into
Yeah,
entrepreneurs.
I
Um,
hadn't thought about that.
so it's supporting people that are figuring out a way to turn their creative talent into something that is a business. Uh, Being a creative is hard because creativity is subjective. Not everyone's going to see the value of something that you've put 700 hours into. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I think just supporting Bahamians, supporting small Bahamian businesses is just important for us as I think it's literally a duty of care,
Mm-hmm.
because it's important. I got too deep. Yeah, it's just important. I feel like not we don't always feel like we are owners of the Bahamas. So I feel like when we support our own, that's what makes the difference.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I did feel that it was getting deep, and I can appreciate that just because I agree. I think a lot of times we don't give ourselves as a people enough credit. Like the
Mhm.
typical Bahamian won't give another Bahamian the credit, or just Bahamians as a whole. And we always feel like it's better somewhere else, or some other country or people from other countries are going to do it better, when really we have such amazing homegrown talent in all areas of business and creativity. And I think it's so important that we highlight that. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things that you have done with your brand, but also Tingsmas, because you are bringing people along the journey, and you're showing that, you know, you can find something you're passionate about and like doing and still make money from it. And I think one of my favorite things that I saw at Thingsmas was you had people who were making a lot of these things themselves. And
Mhm.
even like I saw there was one person, and I forget the name of maybe you'll remember. They had their own like sort of graphic design posters that I'm
Yeah.
imagining they made themselves. And I'm like, we oftentimes, like whenever I speak to people about like as simple as making a logo for your business, they want to outsource it. My logo was done by a Bahamian, and I love it. And it's like we have the talent here. And I think to continue to be a resilient country, we need to start investing more in ourselves. To
Yeah.
continue to be sustainable, we need to invest more in ourselves. And I know I said I would plug a sustainable message in here, but I think people don't realize how much greener it is to support someone from doing something at home rather than ordering something from Amazon or from the States and having
Right.
it shipped here, and you bring that money back home. It's
Back home, it's literally like, and there's a direct link. Like I said, like when you buy one of my shirts, I pay my bills. Like that's like direct. Like I feel the impact of people coming to Tingsmas. Like I
Mhm.
decided that I'm going to do this for a fourth year, for a fifth year. Whereas buying from these huge corporations, these huge companies, I mean, it really doesn't make a difference. Like you're
Mhm.
not feeding someone's families. And a lot of the people who are acting were acting this their the business is their side job. Like they
Mhm.
actually have a business, but like this is like their true love, I would say.
Yeah.
um so you are like helping people to literally live out their dreams. And that's like one of the
Nice.
joys I had this year was a product of a Bahamian dream, the product of a Bahamian dream, which was,
Um,
we all had a dream at some point, and I always reflect on this concept that everyone has had a dream as a child. Like you were in a classroom and you were asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? And
yeah.
everyone had some elaborate something, but
Mhm.
somewhere along the lines, survival overcame like, dreaming and like these passion
Mhm.
projects. So I think that while we do have jobs and do work to survive or work to pay bills, um, people still have those passions, those dreams still live in them. So I think that a lot of times when you see someone start a business, yeah, it could be to, make more money, but it also is just like, this is like something that I'm passionate about. This is something that like brings me joy and
Yeah.
is fulfilling. So it's sort of a cycle. If we can get more of that rolling, then the kids that are in primary school could see more ownership, can see more Bahamian empowerment, and feel empowered to do the same thing. And then
Yes.
all of a sudden, we have this domino effect of Bahamian empowerment and ownership and
Mhm.
a sustainable economy that just relies on Bahamians supporting Bahamians.
Yep.
And it just continues from there. I'm very hopeful.
Yeah. And I think one of the things you said that resonated for me was so children can see it. I think through life, right? And growing up, you lose this dream that you had, like, oh, I really want to do this and save the world and save the animals and help the people, and
Mhm.
it's so pure and it's so passion filled. But as life kind of beats us down, and you start to see like, oh well, cheapest I just get a job at a hotel and get my car, and that's me for the rest of my life. We have so many people who are, for lack of better words, like dead inside, because they're not able to follow this passion where they might paint too, or they might be a sculptor, but because children are not seeing these options, and we're also not supporting Bahamians in these options, they get defeated before they even begin their journey. And I've been so excited to see things like the orange economy being talked about with our government, the Sustainable Development Bank, and all of these amazing initiatives coming up to encourage that, because I think Bahamians are some of the most talented and funny and creative people in the world. We just need the resources and we need the support.
I definitely agree with you in that, like, the getting the job. Sometimes I also have to check my privilege and be like, okay, I am privileged to be able to do this role and not have to get a job. But I also think that, like, I get it too, because it's entrepreneurship is hard.
Yeah.
So, like, I be looking outside of my little perfect little world, being like, boy, it must be nice to get a job, because, you know, like I said, entrepreneurship is lonely. It is isolating. It's difficult. So, and especially like when, like you said, there are not resources that exist to help me figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, lead me on, okay, this is the big dream. How do I get there? So a lot of times, like, literally, I just trial and error and figuring it out. But I do think, like, investing in the resources and investing in Bahamians, you know, who have these dreams, and giving them the tools to, like, fulfill it. But it's our systems are made more so for someone that just needs a job, as opposed to someone that has a dream, because everybody can be a dreamer.
Yeah.
So they say.
Right. So they say. And I think, and you're such a shining example of that. And I wondered if you wanted to share any sorts of activities or travel that you were able to accomplish so far through building this brand of Eyes of Bahamian Bite.
Any activities, or what's the next thing?
Or travel.
Travel.
Like, I know you were recently a part of a workshop for women in entrepreneurship.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. So definitely the doors that have been opened for me is incredible. I'm very thankful, because, again, like, I just be here figuring it out. Like, even when I started the page, I never intended to be doing this. So I just be rolling with the punches. So last year I was selected by Bahamas Development Bank to travel to Jamaica, to be a part of a cohort done or put together by the United Nations. And it was all, like, different women entrepreneurs from different places around the Caribbean. We literally was just together for a weekend, learning from, like, different people that came to speak to us and give us tips and ideas, and just try to figure out, like, how to grow our business, how to scale it up. There were 4 people that were selected to go on from that cohort to a conference in Dubai. That was a part of a bigger group of women that are entrepreneurs, and just how to be bosses, be girl bosses. So that has been amazing. Just anytime I get to speak, I just love talking about what I do, because I'm very passionate about it. So anytime I'm ever asked to speak to anyone, this year I spoke to Palmdale Primary School and Summit Academy.
Amazing.
Like, literally, you know, those 2, I think, speaking engagements were the highlight of my year, just because it's the young minds, it's the little people, it's the little humans that are gonna, you know, be where I am. And I'm like, okay, this is literally what fulfillment looks like, because, you know, questions I was asking them, what's your favorite Bahamian word? Like, you know, just, like, so innocent, so
pure, unfiltered.
You know, just willing to, like, take, you know, everything that you share with them. So yeah, that was definitely something that I feel like I'm going to do again, to see how I can, you know, impact in some way. What else? I'm, like, stalling. One thing I don't like do is talk about, like, the things that I do, boy.
Humble and modest. And that's
it was something that I wanted to mention, but I forget. Ask me another question.
So So one of the next questions is, what is next for Eyes of Bahamian Bay? I know you've mentioned that you are going to do Tingsmith again, so we're definitely going to see that next year.
Right.
But what else? I guess more speaking engagements?
Yeah, so one is being more consistent with merchandise. That's the thing that sort of like fuels Eyes of Bahamian Bay. But definitely being better at marrying my content with the merchandise. So right now, if you look at Eyes of Bahamian Bay, they're two separate things. So merchandise is something that I do, and then content creation is something that I do.
Yeah.
But what happens is that I would get a lot of views on a video that I put a lot of time into, but that doesn't translate into sales, which is like not horrible, but it makes sort of what I do a little bit more difficult, because then I have to figure out how to funnel sales. Is why I can do this full time, right? So one thing that I've noticed that I'm not very good at is when I do come out with a new shirt or a new design, is I don't tell the story around that. So what I would like to do next year is take more time to marry the two. So when I come out with a new design, I tell a story behind it. So each one of the designs that I came up with this year had a story, a very deep story. So one of the designs was, that brown girl in a ring would be so proud, sha la la la. And so like the story there is the Ring Play song, Brown Girl in a Ring, that we all resonate with to some degree. But it's there in that one design is the history of Ring Play, the history of what that song means, who three people who that song resonated with, what they're doing now. Like, so there's so much packed into one design that we don't necessarily see because I don't tell it. The next one that I would say is the product of a Bahamian dream. Why are we products of the Bahamian dream? It's because of our grandparents that came before us. Okay, let me figure out or find 4 grandparents that would like to tell their story, and then their grandchildren to be the link of those stories. And then what is your mission for the future? So that's like five different pieces of content right there that I'm not told because I don't do it.
You are in your own way.
Yeah. So next, I really want to start to tell those stories, because like each piece of each design that I come up with comes from my own personal I guess journey, but also it resonates with other people.
Yeah.
So it's just like, if I could marry those two, that would be great. And then also too, I would like to in some way work with children a little bit. I think that if I had me as a child to empower the way I was speaking, that would be nice.
Yeah.
That'd be nice, just to sort of engage with Bahamian language and not feel bad about how I just talk. That would be very helpful for me. So I would like to, in some way, be that for somebody else.
I love that. And that's like your legacy right there. You know, I know I've seen memes where it talks about like for parents and children, you know, for parents and themselves, people in themselves, don't be the adult that your parents or teachers were, be the adult that you needed.
Right.
And I love that, because I think it's so important as adults and as older people. No, for real. Because I think even like I've met people who would necessarily say, well, I don't like kids. I don't want to have kids. But when you see them interact with children, they're not mean. They they still interact with that child in a way that, you know, you don't ruin that child's life, and you don't give an interaction to them that is negative. You show them support, and you encourage them to be whatever it is that they want to be, and be good and do the things that are passionate to them. And I agree. I think it's so important that children, younger people, even younger adults, they see or hear from someone that is saying it's okay to talk like that.
Yeah.
I mean, if Jamaican can have patois and then speak regular English, why can't we? I think we oftentimes we're under the foot of the colonial history that we have, and then obviously our proximity to the US, where I've met other Caribbean people, and unfortunately my accent is not as potent as I would have loved it to be, but they would ask me if I was American, like, do Bahamians sound like that? And I'm like, no, I'm not an example of a Bahamian, but I'm still Bahamian, you know, like when I get around.
Right there, just not to cut you off, that right there is another thing that is a value of Eyes of Bahamian Bay. Is I remember when I first started, I did this post as Eyes of Bahamian, but I don't. And that was very popular because it made the people who, because we all have Bahamian, we're all Bahamian, there's Bahamianism, but we all feel guilty and shameful about things that we don't necessarily do as Bahamians. It's this collective, this is what a Bahamian is, and anything outside of this box is not it. And I think that's another thing that I'm trying to break with what I do, which is stop putting us in a box. Like, we are so dynamic, but when the conversation comes down and you don't sound Bahamian enough, like, oh, give me a passport, or I don't eat conch salad. Okay, so what? So it's these things that make us Bahamian, but it's also embracing the individuality within us, that make us unique, that make us so powerful. So that's another thing that I try to shut down. Like, I came out with a Junglist shirt a couple years ago, and that was very popular. But also too, when I wear my Junglist shirt, people side eye me, because just like, I'm not what you consider a junglist, but it's just like, you don't know me. So I wear that to break the stigma associated with what it is to be a junglist, and to empower, like, we all got a little bit of junglist in us. Like, that's some
sure.
favorite music, like, lick off, and it's just like, you're a different person. So again, just breaking these stigmas and these stereotypes associated with Bahamianism, the good and the bad ones.
Yeah, I love that. And yeah, I remember that design, and I remember not being able to get one. And I also was like, man, like, you know, I present this one way, but yeah, you play the right song.
Right. Like, you don't know me, so don't box me in, right?
Exactly.
So yeah.
I love that. So as we start to wind down, I am curious about who is someone that you would say, whether they're local or international, that inspires you, and why?
My grandmother Norma. She plays a very, 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 very huge, crucial role in this story. I lost her in 2018, and that's sort of what prompted me to travel in the first place. But yeah, like, I think everything that I have today, everything that I'm doing today, is a direct link to the role she played in my life. So the storytelling, the interest in history, is because I spent so much time with her, just listening to her stories about her life and just being like in awe about what she had done, what she had gotten through, what she got through. My love for business is because she was a businesswoman. My ability I can sew, so that's something that maybe you'll see in the future. But my ability to sew and do embroidery and these things that have not even like come into play in Eyes of Bahamian Bay comes from her. She taught me when I was a child. Cooking chaos, even though I didn't learn how to cook from her, but I remember in the house when she was cooking peas and rice, or being around when she was making these, like, she used to call soup her slam bam soup, but she just throw everything in the pot. I could make that dead good. She was a force. She was very unapologetic. She's one of those people where it's just like, she can tell you what she think. You either gonna like it, or you not gonna like it. You gonna either like her, or you not gonna like her. She don't care, because she right regardless. Yeah, she is the product of a Bahamian dream that is directly from her.
I love that.
Like she's my girl. Yeah.
Thanks for that. I appreciate you sharing that. I can feel how deep and passionate that is. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for
Yeah.
asking. I like
Yes.
to talk about her.
Yeah. And I've actually been to that store. That's where I bought my first As a Bahamian by rash guard.
Oh yeah, the colorful one.
No, I got the white one.
Okay, I know which one you mean then.
Yeah, it had like the map on the back. So I was super excited when I was there because I'd left mine home and I went in and I was like, I got the rash guard now.
No,
So
oh yes, that's
yeah,
her. That's
definitely
now my mom's store.
nice.
But yeah, we grew up. Me and my sisters grew up in that store every like for our whole lives. So it
Mhm.
came very natural to like do what I'm doing because I grew up doing it.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
your heritage.
Mm.
Definitely. So, as a last question before we close out, what are some final thoughts you'd want to give to viewers? That's like maybe words of inspiration or a personal mantra that you live by that you'd like to share to help.
What is my last?
It could be more than one.
Um, I think right now where I am at, because I think there's different mantras for where you are seasonally, but
Mhm.
where I am at right now is in very close conversation with God. I find that as I'm growing, as I'm developing, people are excited, but oftentimes some words of encouragement or some words of advice can veer you off from where you're supposed to be going. And I've had that happen multiple times where it's just like, okay, God told me to go left, but someone told me to go right, and that just made so much sense. So I went right, and then I got
Mhm.
stuck
Wow.
because just like, well, that wasn't the plan. So I think your journey is a spiritual one. You have to listen. You have to be quiet. You have to isolate yourself sometimes to really hear the voice of God, for to know where you're going and what you should be doing, and how you should be doing it, who you should have around you, and then also to whatever it is your vision. Protect that.
Right.
And when I say protect that, I don't necessarily mean don't tell people, but pray over it. Um, Trust it. Trust that everything that you need to fulfill that vision is going to find you in its time, because we tend to rush. Um, we just like to rush. Boy, we see the 10-year plan and we want that in 2 years. And I've been
Yeah.
there. But take your time. Everything is going to find you, but you have to read it up, like constantly, and pray over what it is that you want. Um, yeah, I think that's like my biggest thing.
No, that's beautiful. And I think it is important that people, especially during this holiday season, I was literally just talking about this on my Instagram live that I deleted. It's sometimes really important to take a moment like the holiday season to kind of just retreat within yourself,
Hmm.
listen to, well, what are the things that you have done, you want to do, how you're going to get there. And again, that not rush thing resonated so much just now because like you said, like people, they see it's a 10-year plan.
Yeah.
Bahamians especially, we want to beat the GPS.
You
Like
want
we
to be
can look
there, right?
at that. I can get that in 2 years. I can do that faster.
Right. And it's so people, and again, people mean well, but I remember this was maybe year one I was at Don't Collect. This is where I popped up at the time.
Mhm.
And it was this gentleman there, much older. Um, and he was so enthusiastic about what I was doing. Like he thought it was an amazing idea. He's so happy that something like that had come around. And here's what you need to do. Like very enthusiastic. And again, this is like just year one for me. Like I still don't even know what this is. It's just like, you need to do this, and you need to do this saying, and you need to do a newspaper ad. More people need to know about you. People don't know about this. I know about this because I'm in the loop, but this is what you need to do. Just listen. And I listened. I'm pretty sure it was like maybe 15 minutes. Like he was just talking at me.
Wow.
And I walked away from that conversation, and I remember, and this has become relevant again currently. And I remember telling my sister, I was just like, people mean well, but they can very easily knock you off your path if you don't trust that you may not know what you're doing, but you're taking the right and necessary steps to get there. So it's very easy for them to like just like completely like kick you off your path because you're just like, okay, I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna have add a new newspaper and I'm do this and do that. And it's just like, well, I'm not there yet. If I put an ad, imagine I had taken that advice and gone full force into what he had said in terms of getting more people to know about the brand X, Y, and Z. I still lived in Eleuthera. I would have been able to meet the demand, and then people would have been mad that I couldn't fulfill the supply, customer service, and then all of a sudden, right. So it's just like you really have to trust your pace. Like, and even today, people like you need to do this. Like, more people need to be buying. It's just like people are buying within my capacity.
Right.
You know, like I know that I could be making more and doing more, but I'm not within that capacity to do that. I'm literally just a girl.
I'm just a girl.
Like I can only do as much as I'm capable of doing right now. So yes, you see how far I could be or how much further I can be right now. But if I'm not in a personal position to be there, I'm gonna fail.
Yeah.
So you just have to trust where you are. You have to trust what you're doing, and trust that God got you. And like it's so easier said than done. But yeah.
No, that makes sense. But I love that you are just a girl, but you are a girl, so you can get it done. You can get it done, and it's true. I think to that point, yes, you'll get there one day business wise, but you also need to get there personal wise. Like you as a person needs to grow to that dream. Like you right now, like you said, you were in Eleuthera at the time. Yes, you could have done all those things, but you know, that would have been a huge reputational risk for you. Like who would have known how it would have literally probably shattered everything that could have been. And so, man, trust the pace, trust the process. And I think I expect to see big things from you in its time, and I'm excited and always supportive. And thank you so much for taking the time out to do this show. I'm very happy that I got a chance to sit and talk with you, and I hope that you have great holidays.
Thank you for having me. I very much enjoyed this conversation. I have a lot of conversations or interviews. This is one of a really good one I've had in a while, for real. Like, I feel like there's space for me to actually share with some must be, you know, a little rushy.
Yeah, no.
So thank you.
I'm all about documenting the stories. I think it's so important that you see the person behind whatever it is, and typically the research project or the study or the results. But I think for you, as a Bahamian Bay is so big that, you know, who started this? It's you. And how and why, and you know, so definitely thank you, because this has been such a great experience for me as well, and I'm excited.
Thank you. Have a good Christmas. Have a good New Year.
You too. Oh, and to all the viewers, and to all of our viewers. Right. I totally forgot that we have a whole audience possibly listening right now. Thank you for riding this wave with us. This is our first holiday special, and it will not be our last. So keep riding the wave with Siren Sundays, and I will see you all next year.